Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, if you're a focused learner out there trying to finally master English, I want to start by just acknowledging something that I know so many of you have experienced firsthand. Honestly, there is this deep, agonizing frustration in studying English for months or, even years. You're buying all the books, you're memorizing the vocabulary, only to find yourself completely freezing up and unable to speak confidently when the actual moment arrives. It's the worst, right?
Okay, let's dive into this. Why exactly does this happen? Well, the truth is, memorizing a bunch of grammar rules and buying these massive, thick textbooks simply isn't enough to build real, spontaneous communication skills. You can know literally every rule in the world, but if you haven't actually trained your brain and your mouth to work together in real time, you're gonna freeze.
And honestly, that brings us right to the core thesis of our explainer today. Language fluency, it's not something you can just cram for the night before. Fluency is grown, little by little, through daily practice. You've got to think of it less like a subject to be memorized for a final exam and much more like a growing tree or a developing muscle. It absolutely requires consistent, small inputs over a long period of time to actually grow strong. So to get us there, we've got a really clear roadmap for this explainer. We're going to group 7 essential daily habits into 5 completely manageable, stress-free pillars. The secret to fluency, feeding your brain, exercising your mouth, rewiring your thoughts, and finally, the power of consistency. All right, let's kick things off with pillar number 1, the secret to fluency. This is all about that necessary mindset shift from needing those exhausting 5-hour study sessions to simply needing the right habits and the discipline to follow them. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that you need to completely let go of the idea of perfection. Fluency is fundamentally a physical and mental muscle. It grows stronger not through perfect, flawless grammar, but through consistent, daily exposure and practice. Remember, every single fluent English speaker out there was once a beginner who felt totally confused and struggled to understand. They just kept exercising that muscle. Which leads us perfectly into our second pillar, feed your brain. Because before you can speak well, you absolutely have to treat your ears as the doorway to fluency, just like a child learns a language by observing. So, absorbing English naturally happens in the small, everyday moments. You can listen while you're making breakfast or walking the dog. It's basically brain exercise to recognize sound patterns. But it's not just listening. Reading is just as vital. Let me tell you about Sarah from our source material. She tried to read this highly advanced, really difficult English book, and it was so incredibly stressful that she literally quit entirely, just felt completely defeated. But when she changed her approach and started reading simple, enjoyable stories for just 15 minutes a day, she found massive success. Her vocabulary just exploded, and she absorbed all these complex grammar rules naturally without memorizing a single thing. Now, once you're feeding your brain properly, we enter the output phase, our third pillar. Exercise your mouth. Because watching 100 videos about swimming won't make you a swimmer, and passively studying rules won't make you a speaker. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why. There is a massive difference between your passive vocabulary, the words you just recognize on a page, and your active vocabulary, which are the words you actually naturally use when speaking. You really have to treat vocabulary like bricks for building a house. Memorizing massive lists of 50 words a day that you're never going to use is totally useless. Instead, you are so much better off learning just a few words and actively using them to build sentences immediately. To put that into perspective, if you learn and actively use just 5 new words a day, that compounds into a staggering 1,800 active words in a single year. Think about that. Having 1,800 words actively ready at the tip of your tongue will completely, 100% transform your ability to communicate in real life. But to actually use those words, you have to get over the fear of sounding foolish. Look, mistakes are not signs of failure. They are literal proof that you are learning. Take Daniel's story, for example. He was totally paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes in public. So, his solution? He decided to just talk to himself out loud in his empty room for 10 minutes a day. Sure, he felt a little silly at first describing his breakfast to the walls, but he proved a massive point. Speaking comes first, and the confidence follows right behind it. But what if speaking feels incredibly slow and exhausting? Well, that brings us to pillar 4, rewire your thoughts. This is about internalization, solving that massive problem of constantly translating thoughts from your native language, which creates so much hesitation and immense stress.
To break this translation trap, you really have to internalize the language. Start super small. Step 1, describe simple actions in your head, like, I am making coffee. Step 2, describe your surroundings, like, the sky is beautiful. And step 3, ask yourself simple questions and just answer them. A learner named Emma practiced this for just 5 minutes daily while walking. And you know what? Over time, she broke the translation habit entirely. The English words just began appearing in her mind completely automatically.
Another incredible way to rewire your thoughts is journaling. A learner named David really struggled to remember vocabulary until he started a daily habit of writing down just 3 or 4 simple sentences every evening using basic prompts. He'd ask himself, what did I do today? Or how did I feel? Writing simple sentences daily trains your brain to organize ideas, and it builds the exact same cognitive skills that you need for fast, spontaneous speaking.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our 5th and final pillar, the power of consistency. This is the overarching rule that glues all of these training habits completely together. Honestly, none of the other steps matter without this one. Motivation, it's just a temporary, fleeting emotion. When you first start learning, sure, you're super excited, but when life gets busy, that initial excitement always fades. Always. Relying on discipline, which is a powerful commitment to daily action, practicing even on your really bad days, is exactly what separates the truly successful learners from those who eventually quit.
And hey, discipline doesn't mean exhausting yourself. A highly effective daily routine can literally take just 20 minutes. We're talking 5 minutes of listening, 5 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of speaking, and 5 minutes of journaling. You don't need some exhausting 6-hour marathon session. Keeping your skills active through these small daily routines creates massive results over a year or two, just like it did for Sarah.
Remember this core truth. The greatest danger is not making mistakes. The greatest danger is stopping. Think about it like this. Brushing your teeth once for 5 hours straight doesn't keep them clean for a whole year, right? No way. You have to maintain them daily. English fluency requires that exact same brief, daily maintenance.
So the crucial point is right here in this number. 1. If you aim to be just 1% better each day, that effort compounds silently. Language learning can feel totally invisible at first, but those 1% daily improvements, they build into an impossible-to-ignore, completely amazing transformation over time. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative question for today's explainer. Look at the habits we've covered today: listening while making breakfast, reading a simple story, talking to yourself for 10 minutes, thinking in English while walking, or just writing 3 little sentences in a journal. Which one of these small English habits will you start today to take your first active step toward true fluency? The choice is entirely yours, but the time to start is right now.